the lion, the king of the jungle, got married to the lioness. Everybody comes to the wedding, big wedding. And one by one, all the animals come up to the lion, give him a gift, shake his hand. And they all tell him, bro, this is for you. And of course, the joke is said in Hebrew, so bro sounds better. It's achi. And one by one, all the animals come to him, tap him on his back, give him a present. The last animal on line was the mouse. The mouse comes up to the lion, taps him on his back, and tells him, bro, mazal tov, I wish you all the best. And so the lion gets upset. He roars. That's how you say roars? Roars at the mouse and tell him, whoa. I'm not your brother. Stop with that. I am the king. I am the king of all the animals. So the mouse is like, yeah. In the first week of the marriage, I also thought I'm the king. So, as we know, the beginnings are usually the most exciting and fun thing of any situation. If it's a relationship, the beginning is always the most exciting, you're most in love. If it's a kid, first kid, second kid, after the birth of the child, the first month exciting, okay, then you're married for 20 years, you have the kid for 20 years. You buy a new car, first week, it's all exciting. Okay, then the car is... The beginning is usually the fun part, and then you get used to something, and it's slowly, the excitement wears off. And that's with everything. And to keep the excitement is almost impossible. If it's relationships, you're never going to have the same excitement after 20 years what you have in the first month. And even if it's a physical object, it doesn't matter what it is. So we just now started a new year. So the excitement is still big. We just celebrated the first month of the year, Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, then Kippur, then Sukkot. It's excitement. So now, most people can say they're excited. Most people are, I'm talking about the people who took advantage of Tishrei, not the people who are sitting on the beach. Somebody who took Rosh Hashanah in the right measure, and to do changes, and to do tshuva, I'm talking about people who are aware of their tshuva and their spiritual growth, then Tishrei is like when you start. I can talk for myself. Rosh Hashanah, you excited. Then come Yom Kippur, you get even more excited. Sukkot, and so now we're in the beginning of the year. It's exciting, but in this end of the week is Rosh Chodesh already. Rosh Chodesh comes. Next week will be Cheshvan. We start saying Tachanun again. The sun goes down early. You go back to some type of schedule. Before you know it, it's a month from now. It's Kislev. We're already into the year. The excitement of Rosh Hashanah wears off. Now, when a person does tshuva on Rosh Hashanah and they take on themselves a lot of good decisions, this year I'm going to learn Torah, this year I'm going to pray in a minyan, this year I'm going to do this and that, it sustains for a month or two, if you're lucky. And then the whole excitement wears off. So, how can you maintain this excitement, not only in your Avodat Hashem, in anything? The question is, well, now we're going back to a day-to-day life. What do we take from all the holidays that we just celebrated? After all, we are on a very spiritual high, especially the poor people outside of Israel. For them, every holiday is 3 days. For us, at least, it's 1 day and we're done with it. Now I feel bad for the people outside of Israel. Now in Sukkot, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbat, that's... Kol hakavod, I don't know. That's one of the biggest things I hated when I lived in America. That the holidays, if it's attached to Shabbat, 3 days. But nevertheless, I don't know about you, I'm now still on some spiritual high. Taking Rosh Hashanah, taking a whole month of Elul of slichot, of dedication, every morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, an hour slichot. I don't know about you, I'm on some spiritual high. But I know myself, after being observant for 20 years, in a month, that spiritual high goes down. The question and the trick is, what do you take out of these holidays for the rest of the year? So the question that I want to talk about today is how do you maintain the excitement of the beginnings, of any beginning. And more than that, I mean, after all, we're in the Parashat of Noach, of the Mabul. What's the significance of the Mabul, of the flood, the first story of the Torah? We're done the creation, we're done the history of mankind, boom, right away we have a disaster. So two things we're going to talk about today is A, how do you maintain the excitement of new beginnings? And more than that, what is the significance of the flood? And of course, what is the connection of both of them? The flood that we read about in this parasha, it's not the entire parasha. We read about many other important things that we need to address and to know. But today we're going to talk about the flood. And not only that, that's the focus of the parasha. Really the significance or the message about the flood for every individual people is comparing the problems, or more to say, how much your livelihood occupies you. It's called tirdot parnasa. That's what the flood is compared to. Because unless you're born to a very wealthy family that everything is given to you on a silver platter, which is also not a solution for anything, most people, they are occupied most of the day, most of their life with their parnasa. How they make money? They need to pay their rent, they need to pay for food, they need to pay for clothes, for education, for everything. I mean, we're still not in the times of Mashiach. You have to work for your living. That's one of the punishments that Adam HaRishon got from being kicked out of Gan Eden. Be'ezat apecha tuchal lechem. With tears and sweat, you're going to have to work all your life. I know very few people that don't work throughout their life, or they work a little bit. I know one individual, her father is very wealthy. He gives her money from day one. Besides being a spoiled brat that can't even barely handle one thing in her life, okay, so she doesn't worry about parnasa. Well, that's one out of millions. Most people, their day is evolving around their job and how they make money. And this is called tirdot parnasa. What occupies you about your livelihood. Now, if you're in a good time, in a good period, then parnasa, the livelihood is good. You make money, everything's fine. But the reality is that most people struggle with that. Most people struggle with earning money. And earning money doesn't come so easy. And then you earn finally money, then it goes on things you don't really expect. Or suddenly your expenses are much more. So the significance of the flood is to hint to us about tirdot parnasa, the trouble and the occupation and everything that goes around it, how I need to make livelihood and make money. What is the solution that the Torah offers you? Kanes lateva. What it offered Noach. Go into the ark. Now the ark can be interpreted in many different ways. At this point, when I quote Kanes lateva, go into the ark, I will compare it now to our dreams. Our dreams, our desires, our goals. Because every person at some point in their life, some people it starts very early, they have dreams. I want to be rich, I want to be famous, I want to have a nice car, I want to live in a beautiful home. Besides that, it's kind of implanted in society that you have to be successful, that you have to get an education, and you have to be successful in life. That's also can be taught completely different. These values are not necessarily the right values. The right value is to tell an individual, you want to be a good person. You want to have good characteristics. You want to be a good citizen, a good neighbor, a good child. But society educates people, no, you have to be academic, you have to be learned, you have to be successful if you're not going to have a job. And when I was a teenager, when I was a kid, till teenager, all I heard that if I won't learn, I will never make it in life. And my teacher always told me when I was a little kid, if you're not going to learn, you'll be the ones who collecting the garbage. What kind of education is that? The right education to educate the kid is be kind, be polite, help people, be courteous, be thoughtful. That's the right education. No, go get yourself a job. Now, again, don't get me wrong. I am for getting an education, building yourself a career and so on. I'm not against that. But that's not the focus. But nevertheless, to stay on the topic, every person has dreams. When I was a young kid, I had dreams. I want to be this, I want to be that. I hear it from my kids too. When I grow up, I want to be whatever it is. Some people want to be a lawyer, want to be a doctor, want to be a whatever it is. But nevertheless, we have dreams, we have goals, we have aspirations. And there's things that we want to do, and not always it's talking about money. There's a lot of things that we want to do, but we don't find the time. Some people want to work out, some people want to pick up some hobbies or whatever it is, and life is busy. Somebody today talked with me. They have to come and see me for something. I told them, listen, I cannot see you till the middle of November. What? But I'm in Israel right now. I said, listen, I'm a busy man. You want to join me one day to see my schedule? I start my day at 4 in the morning. Just being a religious man, that's 3 hours a day. Just prayers and learning Torah. What about a father? I have 7 kids to take care of. I have business. I have students. My day is busy. You know how many things I would like to do and I don't have time for? With the right time management, you can do anything you want. You can squeeze in whatever you need to do, it's all priorities. But the fact is that we have a lot of things that we want to do, we dream of a lot of things, and our life is too busy and it's very hard to do it. But nevertheless, the solution of the Torah in this case is go into the ark. Now we have to explain that, because the ark is really the teva, where Noach went into to be saved from the flood. What is the flood again? The tirdot, the occupation all day long with daily matters. I know some people, and going back to the example I told you with the guy who wanted to come and see me, I told him, listen, you're not married, you don't have a wife and kids to take care of. You are financially doing well, you don't have a job. He invested in some business, he sold it, he made a lot of money. Unbelievable story, by the way, the guy was homeless. The guy was a heroin addict, homeless individual, thrown on some curve in Los Angeles. He had a brilliant idea. I don't even know how. That's Hashem. He was able to materialize the idea. Boom, sold it, made millions of dollars. He has a house. He has everything he needs. He doesn't work. He does charitable work. He works with drug addicts. And I told him, you don't have to worry about money. So you don't have kids and family to worry about. You don't have money to worry about. Your day is like you walk, I walk fast from point A to point B. I told him, you're like, relax. I'm not, I don't share with you the same lifestyle. So I know some people that they don't do nothing all day long and their day is busy. What they do all day long, I had to go here, and I had to take care of this, and I had to take care of that. But you didn't do nothing all day long. So sometimes the day is so busy that you get occupied with the daily matters, and really you don't do nothing. Okay, so what's the solution of the Torah? Build an ark and go into the ark. So we're going to have to address that and see what does it really mean. Now, this ark that I'm talking about is how you're going to be able to fulfill your dreams. And when I'm saying fulfilling your dreams, you have goals, you have aspirations, you have desires to fulfill it in the best way possible. And by the way, all that to be successful in your life, but without being washed down by the waters of the flood. And in our analogy, the waters of the flood is all the things that you are occupied all day long. Different doctor's appointments and different things you need to take care of. Like I said, some people are busy all day long, but you didn't do nothing. Yeah, I was 2 hours in the city hall, 2 hours here, and I had to go take care of this, I had to go take care of that. That's these waters that we're talking about. So we want to find us a creative solution, how I go into this ark, but this ark, not only that it allows me to be successful, it also allows me to remove from me all these worries. Now, when I want to be successful with everything that I need to do, that's comparing, so to say, the month of Tishrei. Because the month of Tishrei, I'm busy most of the month with holidays. You have Rosh Hashanah, that's 2 days. Then the 10 days of Tshuva. Then Yom Kippur. 3 days later, you have Sukkot. That's 8 days. So the entire month of Tishrei, it's the time where you can, so to say, charge your spiritual battery, and that's what's going to allow you to be successful the entire year. And to achieve what you want to achieve. It can be business, it can be many other things. So what is this arc that we're talking about? Okay, so I will address it as we go. In order to explain it in the best way possible, let's refer to a verse in the book of Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs by Shlomo HaMelech, and specifically in chapter 8, verse 7. The verse says, Ma'im rabim lo yuchlu lechabot et ha'ava. Translation, many waters cannot quench the love, nor can rivers flood it. I'm sure you know the verse, and Shir HaShirim, like I said, chapter 8, verse 7. And when it's talking about Maim Rabim, many waters, and again, what does it mean? Commentary says, Tirdot HaParnasa v'inyanei olam hazeh. What occupies you and the problems of this world, and how to make your livelihood. Sometimes maybe your livelihood is done well, but you have a few kids that you need to take care of, and you all day long need to take care of them with all sorts of things. And that's called Tirdot Inyanei Olam Hazeh. Sometimes I find myself that the day comes, it's already 1, 2 in the afternoon. I didn't work yet. All I dealt with is go to school to this child, go to this to deal with this thing, go to that to deal with that. Yes, just yesterday. I had to deal with a few things for my kids. Baruch Hashem, they're all going back to school now, after not being in school for so many months because of this war. So the whole day you're just busy. Go to this municipality, go to this school, go to this office to sign them up, go here and pay this, go to this. This is Tirdot Olam. It's things that occupied me all day long, and I didn't get to work. Comes 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I didn't even start my day. Teva, the word Teva in Hebrew is ark. It means ark. But it also can be translated as word. The word Teva in Hebrew can be translated as ark, but if you look in the Hebrew dictionary, Teva is also a word. A word. W-O-R-D, word. So when it says go into the Teva, go into the ark, it's not only go into the ark, it's go into the words. What does it mean? And then we have to understand what the Torah says. In order for us to understand the concept of what the Torah is trying to teach me, as usual, we have to present a few questions. Question number 1, and by the way, I don't ask these questions. All these questions are presented in the Midrash, in the Talmud, and in many other commentaries. But the first question that comes up to your mind when you're reading about the flood, is why does Hashem decide to destroy and kill everything with water? Could have been done with fire, could have been done with choking, could have been done with a million other things. And in a few weeks we're going to read about the destruction of Sodom. Hashem destroyed it with fire. With the stones coming from the sky. I don't know, maybe it was a nuclear bomb, I don't know what it was. But nevertheless, in this specific case, why did Hashem choose water? Fair question. And the question is fair because usually water signifies life. Water is a positive thing. I mean, water really is the liquid of life. That's how it's called in Hebrew. Nozel HaChaim. And without water, you can't live without water. You have a backyard. Just the other day, just to give an example, we have a plant in the house. The leaves were all withering. My young daughter comes and says, Abba, why the leaves like that? I said, because the plant doesn't have water. The leaves are withering. They're starting to die. Give it water right away. So what do we take from that? Water gives you life. So Hashem takes the sustenance that brings you life and He decides to kill with that and to destroy the entire world. First question, good question. Second day, why 40 days? You know, in Makat Bechorot, in the 10th plague in Egypt, in 1 second, all the firstborn died. 1 second, that's all it took. Hashem needs 40 days. If you really want to punish somebody, finish with it. Why are you making a whole episode here? 40 days, 40 nights. Also, legit question. Why? Because we find in many places in the Torah, when Hashem decided to destroy something, it was right away. And where? I told you, in Sodom v'Amorah, Hashem used fire. Also, Hashem destroyed them. Within minutes, the whole city was destroyed. And like I told you, the firstborn, or we read now in the Haftarah over the holidays, when Hashem came to destroy the army of Sancheriv, it says 180 million soldiers, 180 million, 180,000, there's different opinions. Boom, in one shot he destroyed them all. Hashem, why so? He needs 40 days to destroy the world. Second question. Third question, why an ark? Why does Noach need to build an ark for 120 years? Why use an ark? I told you many times, and I'm going to elaborate that on the coming class this coming Sunday. In Eretz Israel, there wasn't a flood. That's one thing that we're going to talk about in the coming lecture on Sunday. Stay tuned. But just that you know, in the land of Israel, the flood didn't affect. The flood didn't come to Eretz Israel. So just tell Noach, go to Eretz Israel and hide there. Why need to make a whole show? 120-year construction. Massive, this is not an ark, it's a ship. Also a big question. You want to save Noach? Then pull him out of the atmosphere, like you did with Moshe Rabbeinu, and save him. Why do you need to save him on the water, in the ark, with the whole animals? Why can't you tell Noach, take all the animals, go down to this corner of the world, for example, Eretz Israel, and you'll be saved. That would take Noach 2 weeks. He needs to now build an ark for 120 years. Third question. And the fourth question is, what is this ark? Because an ark, when we find the word in the Torah ark, Moshe Rabbeinu was placed in an ark. That was this big, like a little carriage for a baby. What Noach did is not an ark. What Noach did is a ship. You know how big it is? 300 amah, that's like 150 meters. It's way bigger than an average huge yacht. Okay. So we have a few questions that we need to focus on. And before we even answer the question, we have to understand one very important detail. The flood was not a punishment. People think or perceive that the flood was a punishment, that humanity was corrupt and Hashem had to punish them. Well, the flood is not a punishment. And the ark that we're talking about, it's much more than just a tool to save Noach. Because as we know, Hashem could have saved Noach in any other way. Hashem could have made Noach, I don't know, have wings and fly in the air or whatever it is. Hashem is teaching us, not only us, the entire world, about the flood, how to gain and to reach purity. That's really what the flood is. The flood is not a punishment, rather a way for us to learn how to reach tahara, purity. And, most important, how to stay sane in this crazy world. That's really what the flood is coming to teach me. It's not a punishment. It's a tool for me to learn how can I stay sane in seeing what's going on in the world. Some people, all day long, they're glued to the news, and I actually don't know how they stay sane. All day long, all you hear about is terror attacks and missiles and murders and this and that, and you watch the news, you get depressed. No problem, no wonder half the world is depressed. You just watch the news. Forget about that it's all fake, and half of it never even happen. But most people are glued to the news. And if it's not the news, so social media. And if not social media, whatever app they're feeding their nonsense from. Last year when October 7 happened, I am guilty as charged, and I also was pretty much glued to all sorts of channels for like a month. You couldn't not. I don't know, at some point I was like, I can't take this. I don't know how people stay sane all day long to see death and murder and killing and horror stories and disasters. And so unfortunately we live in a crazy world. How do you stay sane in this world? Unless you completely ignore what's going on, or I don't know what drugs you're using, how do you stay sane in this world? That's why half the world, I'm being very conservative now, 95% of this world are on drugs. To, blur the reality. Drugs, I'm not only talking about cocaine and heroin. It can be Xanax, can be whatever drugs they prescribe to you. It doesn't matter. Most people are drugged. That's the reality. You can argue with me as much as you want. Most people are drugged on something to blur the reality. Very few people know how to deal with the reality. They see the reality, the world collapses. So let's review now all the questions so we can continue and explain this wonderful message. So the first question we asked is, why water? We know by many different sources that water is a very positive thing. If you look into the sources, rain is considered a positive thing. There's a whole tractate in the Talmud, it's called Ta'anit, that it's talking about rains and floods and droughts and everywhere you would look in this tractate, it's teaching you rains are a positive thing. We're waiting for rain, no crops, no food. And water, however you're going to look at it, always will come out as a positive thing. So, not only that, the Talmud, I told you in Tractate Ta'anit, it explains that rain signifies blessing. It's considered a blessing from above. So how can you take something positive and take something that is considered a blessing and destroy humanity with that? That's an oxymoron. Second question that we presented is, why the 40 days? So, like I said, first of all, 40 days is considered what's called Leidah Chadasha. Leidah Chadasha is like a new birth. If a person, that's what the Torah teaches you, if a person wants to get rid of a bad habit, then you need 40 days to remove it. You want a prayer to work in a certain way, you need to do it for 40 days. If you're battling some type of addiction or whatever it is, or a bad habit, the Torah tells you, go 40 days without it. Whatever you do for 40 days will give you a new beginning. This is what the Torah says, Leidah Chadasha. And I can tell you it works. When I wanted to get rid of things, put your mind to it. At 40 days, you put yourself on whatever diet that you need to go to. After the 40th day, you'll see it will come very easy. Why? That's what the Torah teaches us. That 40 days, I'm not going to explain it now, has a significance for a rebirth. So when you want to get rid of a bad habit, or you want to add on yourself something positive, or you want to pray for something, our sages explain, go straight 40 days. That's what I also tell people. You want to get rid of something, 40 days, put yourself on a spiritual diet. You have certain things that you want, pray for 40 days. And we see that, for example, where do we see from the Torah that 40 days has a significance? It took 40 days for Moshe Rabbeinu to bring down the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the mountain, 40 days he had to pray to Hashem. It took him 40 days to bring down the Torah to the world. So we see in many places in the Torah, I don't want to elaborate on every little thing that I say, I'm just giving you the summary, but if you look into it yourself, you'll find that there's a lot of encounters in the Torah that 40 days is what took to achieve something. And I gave you 2 examples. 40 days it took Moshe Rabbeinu to pray to get God to forgive us, and 40 days it took Moshe Rabbeinu to bring down the Torah from the mountain, and many other places. So what do we take from that? That 40 days is a period of creation. When you want to create something new, is going to take 40 days. So we're back to the same question. So why you take these 40 days to destroy? If you teach me throughout the Torah that 40 days is the period to create something new and something positive, so why in this particular case 40 days is for destruction? Okay, next question we asked is, why the ark? As I told you, why are you making such a show? Take Noach and tell him to go to Eretz Israel. According to both opinions in the Gemara, you have Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, both agree that there wasn't a flood in Eretz Israel. Rabbi Yochanan says there wasn't a flood at all. Resh Lakish says, no, there wasn't a flood, but the water from all the rest of the world kind of spilt into Eretz Israel, but it didn't destroy anything. It was just like strong rain coming in. But either way you're looking at it, there wasn't a flood in Eretz Israel. So why need to make a whole show? Take the flood, take Noach, and tell him, move with your family to Eretz Israel. And you know who used that advice, by the way? Og Melech HaBashan. Okay, so Og, the king of the Bashan, there's one opinion that says that he was a giant, then he held the ark. I don't know how good this opinion is, because he held the ark for a whole year. He didn't drink, he didn't eat. Besides the fact that we know that the waters were boiling hot water, how he would sustain holding the ark. But the other opinion says, no, Og Melech HaBashan ran to Eretz Israel and he found dry land. More than that, I'll address that also on Sunday. If the flood destroyed everything, right? Because we learn clearly from the Torah that the flood destroyed everything. So how did the dove find the olive leaf? Where did she find an olive tree? If the flood destroyed everything, and the world was underwater for a year, where did the dove find an olive tree to bring a leaf? Because in Israel there wasn't a flood. So tell Noach to go to Israel. Why are you telling Noach to become a carpenter and to become General Motors and build an ark now for 120 years? And 120 years? Why, he couldn't do it in a year? 2 years? 10 years? 120 years? So the Midrash actually answers this question, and it says there was an element here of impression that people should do tshuva. That's what most of us know. Noach builds an ark, everybody comes, what are you doing? Noach screams, Hashem is angry, he's going to bring a flood, do tshuva. That's what we were taught in the first grade. That Noach built an ark for 120 years, so will be an element of impression. People go, what is this? Can you imagine me now building some weird structure somewhere? Now all the TV's coming, Rabbi Anava is cuckoo. He went completely crazy. We thought he's crazy before. Now he's completely crazy. He's building some structure. CNN, Fox, they're all coming to me. What are you doing? And I tell them, well, the aliens are coming and we have to prepare somewhere for them to land. And can you imagine how cuckoo I'm going to look? But nevertheless, I get the attention of the entire world. So I can understand, Noach builds a massive structure. All the news channels come to Noach and they're telling him, what are you doing? And he tells them, Hashem is angry. He's going to destroy the world with a flood. I'm building an ark. So you can understand why it took him 120 years. That's what the Midrash says. But nevertheless, going back to question this this encounter, we didn't find anywhere in the Torah something like this. Every time when Hashem wanted to destroy Sodom, he made Avraham Avinu build something for 120 years? He didn't even warn Sodom. He sent the angels to take Lot out, and that's it. One nuclear bomb falls on Sodom, and that's it. There was any warning? Avraham Avinu built something? No. Where do we find in the entire Tanakh a warning? Hashem, we just read now on Yom Kippur. Hashem sends Yonah to warn Nineveh. Yonah went to build something? He went to Nineveh and he told them, Chevre, if you don't do tshuva, Hashem is going to destroy your city. That's it. Quick warning, and that's it. So anywhere in the Torah that we found a destruction of such a type, it was never the act of building some big thing for 120 years to show everybody Hashem is upset and do tshuva. So the entire Tanakh, you don't find anything like that, just in this story. Okay, so some can accept, but we're still presenting a question. Why the whole show? Why 120? Why such a big ark? Why the two? Okay, I can accept the explanation of the Midrash, so everybody will see and do tshuva. But still, that's not sufficient. Still, we can ask a question. And when we asked, what is this ark? I mean, like I told you, when you take the word in Hebrew, teva, you have in your mind like a little box. You see this little brown box here, by the way? That's a teva. You see it from there? That's a little teva. Where do we find the word in teva in the Torah? With Moshe Rabbeinu. What Moshe Rabbeinu was put in a ship, it was put in a little box. That's a teva. You're talking here a massive structure. Not only that, again, you need to be more familiar with the Hebrew language. It doesn't, teva is never such a big structure. And teva is a little box. That's not a box, what he built. He built a ship with floors and a whole system to collect the waste of the animals. You imagine how many animals are in the ark, and they're all eating every day and doing their business there, and a whole system that the excrement and the urine goes down to the lower level. I mean, this is not a box. I'm sorry to tell you. You can call it a teva, but it's not. So if so, what is this ark that we're talking about? So, concentrating on these 4 questions brings us to the concept that the flood was not a form of destruction, rather a form of purity, of bringing purity. It's called tahara. A woman has her monthly cycle, she goes to the mikveh. A person dies. The first thing that they do to the person before they bury him, they clean the body. And then once the body is completely clean, they take the body into a mikveh. I don't know if you knew that, but now you do. Person dies, that's one of the Jewish customs. That's how you bury the body. You have to take the body into a mikveh. That's after you cleaned it. And after you dipped the body, that body, into the mikveh, then you can prepare the body for burial. That's the concept of tahara, of purity. So we have to first understand, before we answer the questions of all these 4 questions, before we answer that, we have to understand, A, we know that the flood came because of the behavior of the generation, right? It didn't come because Hashem just got a kriza. It says clearly that Mal'a Aretz Hamas, the humanity went completely mad, and not only humanity, also the animals. Rashi says it wasn't only the human beings, also the animals went cuckoo. And only the animals who stuck to their own species were able to go into the ark. Saying in other words, there were much more types of animals before the flood. And Rashi says, this is not Zohar or Kabbalah, Rashi says, also the animals were going on different species and the animals went a little bit cuckoo. So we found incest, we found theft, we found so many different things in the generation, so we know that is the cause of the flood. But nobody ever stopped to ask what caused humanity to come to this place. Did you ever ask that question? You did? Kol hakavod. But nevertheless, most people don't. If you read the Torah thoroughly and you find and you show interest, you'll start asking these questions. That's a pretty strong question. Okay, the Torah tells me humanity went berserk, and Hashem didn't like it, decided to destroy the world. Did you ever see a commentary that says, but what happened to humanity? What was the cause that the entire human race went completely off the path of the Torah? That not even one person was found, what's the right word? Righteous enough to be saved. Only Noach. So you're talking about millions of people, I don't know in numbers, but you're talking about 1500 years after the creation of the world. We're talking here about probably millions of people. I don't know billions, but let's say millions. So millions of people all corrupted their ways, and only one person, one tzaddik, Noach, and his wife and 3 kids. So the wife, we know that she was also a tzaddiket, Naama. Shem, we know, was a tzaddik. Yefet, there's a question here. And Ham, we knew he was already before the flood, we already knew he's a rasha, he's a wicked. So why was he saved? That's for a different class. It's actually pretty interesting. The opinions why he was saved. But we know that Ham was already a wicked before the flood. Of course, we know that after the flood, we read in this parasha that he raped his father. I mean, a different opinion says that he neutered him. A third opinion says he raped him, then he neutered him. But nevertheless, Ham was wicked. So we're talking here about 8 people saved from humanity. So millions and millions of people corrupt their ways to a point of destruction. What caused that? Yeah, I can hear the bombing too. Don't get excited. We're talking about the destruction of the world right now. You're worried about a few explosions. So, okay, back to our question. What caused the human race to become so corrupt? What, they had a bad leader that told them what to do and what not to do? I mean, what happened? That's a big question. One needs to ask themselves, what is the root for this type of behavior? How come the entire human race, when I'm saying went corrupt, the main problems was acts of immorality, incest, and everything that has to do with forbidden relations, theft, stealing. So you're talking about an entire generation that lives their life like, I don't know what. No rules. Today, no, today is pretty crazy, but Baruch Hashem, you can still find normal people. It doesn't matter from which religion or faith. Go now to the majority of Muslims and the majority of religious Christians and the religious Jews. They all agree, for example, that abortions is not okay. We share our common ground. All the 3 faiths. And you're talking about billions of people. But nevertheless, you have billions of people who don't care about all that. So you're right, our generation is pretty insane. Listen, I was now in America. You don't know who's a woman, who's a man. You don't know who you're talking to at this point. But it was much worse than what I was ever. I mean, I lived in America for 20 years. I've been around in many places. This time, I was embarrassed for my kids. My little kids, this is a man, this is a woman, what is this thing? And it was everywhere. It wasn't like that we went to some faraway town. Everywhere that we went, and I was in all major cities, I was embarrassed. My 5-year-old is like staring, little kids stare. They have no tact. So my little kids, they just stare. And I was, at one point, it was actually, not embarrassing for me. It should be embarrassing to that individual, whether it's a man or a woman. But my kids were staring at that individual, and my little girl was saying to me, loud, is that a woman or a man? Of course, my wife is like, everybody in the area starts laughing, and the guys there, so guy, girl, I don't even know what it was. So yeah, our generation is a little bit screwed up, a little bit, but with all that, you still find a lot of normal people, okay? And it doesn't matter the background or the faith. So we're not as bad, obviously, as what they were. According to what we know, you have here a whole generation, the entire human race, that their mind is corrupt, that all they can think of is how they can be with another individual in the most inappropriate way. Men with men, women with women, animals with it, a whole andarlamusia. And to stop on that, no common sense of being nice to each other, everybody stealing from each other, robbing from each other. If you read all the commentary, it says, V'mal'aretz Hamas. What's this Hamas? The easiest way, go look what the Hamas is doing. That's what they did. Killing people for no reason, raping people for no reason. You see what the Hamas is doing in Gaza. All the world is giving food to the people in Gaza. Hamas is coming and taking it. This is theft. This is Hamas. And they're shooting them. And then they said that we're doing some genocide. But nevertheless, no need to now interpret every little thing. You have 1,500 years that humanity is completely went crazy. Immorality, theft, problems, robbery. What's the root for that behavior? Adam? I don't know. I don't have the question for that. I don't have the answer. The question is, I actually do have the answer for that, but it's not Adam. I'm asking the question, what a person learns the Torah, you see this entire story, you need to ask yourself this question. Now, if you don't ask it, I ask it for you. What is the root for this behavior that the entire human race is corrupt? I have an answer for you. It's one word. And that word is called jealousy. That's it. And what did you find? Like I told you, the main part was gezel. Gezel is theft and robbery. Gilui arayot, incest. And this is the result. And again, what is jealousy? Jealousy is when a person feels, I don't have enough. Or that the person is not appreciative to what they have. That's jealousy. I don't have enough, you have more than me. Or most people, if they look at what they have, you have enough. But when a person is jealous, he's not appreciative to what he has. And of course, the grass of my neighbor is always more green. His car is nicer, his house is bigger, his wife is more attractive, he has more money. So when you're asking what caused an entire human race to go corrupt, jealousy, that's it. No other way to explain it. Now, of course, if you want to contradict and argue, then let's go through the entire creation and let's see how I come to this conclusion. What's the first sin in the Torah? You don't have to answer out loud, but I'm asking and I'll give you 4 seconds to think about it. What is the first sin in the Torah? I know you're all going to say the sin of the tree of knowledge, right? No. The first sin that we read about in the Torah happened on the 4th day of creation. The great luminaries were created together, the sun to control the day, the moon to control the night, and the moon is jealous of the sun. 2 kings cannot rule with the same crown, says the moon. So Hashem punishes the moon and he makes it smaller. That's it. That's the first sin. Who are you to argue who's better than the other? Moon. The moon and the sun were created the same size. Right? The moon was jealous of the sun, saying, I'm going to share the crown with the sun. The sun rules throughout the day. I rule at night. We have to share the same crown of a great luminary? No. The result, Kadosh Baruch Hu makes the moon a little bit smaller. Not like what NASA tells you, that the moon is much smaller. It's a little bit smaller than the sun. The sun is not 400 million miles away from us. The sun is in the atmosphere, and it's a little bit bigger than the moon. But nevertheless, that's the first sin in the Torah. Jealousy. Okay, what's the second sin? I know you're all going to raise your hand and say the tree of knowledge. No. The second sin is that the serpent, who is a creation of God, was jealous of God. That's it. Why are you in control? Why are you the creator? And needless to say that the snake after that starts becoming jealous of Adam HaRishon. Why did he get a nice woman? I also want a nice woman. Probably the snake got some ugly snake cat. And he was like, why am I getting the fat one? I want her. Right? It says clearly the snake was jealous of Adam HaRishon. He got a beautiful woman. And then, third sin, Chava is jealous of the future potential wife that maybe Adam is going to have. Why? Because the snake comes and he entices Chava and he tells her that she won't die by eating from the tree of knowledge. But somewhere in the back of her mind, she still thinks, maybe if I eat it, I will die. Because that's what God says. Now, if I'm going to die, Adam is going to marry another woman. Oh, no. I can't take that he's going to marry another woman. I'll give him also to eat. That if we die, we both die. So Chava's jealous of a potential maybe next wife. Again, jealousy. And now, again, the sins continue. Adam HaRishon is jealous of Hashem. Because the serpent says to Adam HaRishon, if you eat from the tree of knowledge, you'll become like a god. You'll be smart like God, and that's why God doesn't want you to eat from the tree of knowledge. Because then you're going to become a god like him. So Adam is, so to say, jealous of Hashem, that he's a god. I also want to be a god. I also want to know everything. And then we continue, and then Cain is jealous of Hevel. And then we continue. You want me to continue? We'll waste the whole class. The whole story is jealousy. Jealousy after jealousy after jealousy after jealousy. Therefore, the entire 1500 years of humanity, the root of all problems is jealousy. Simple as that. Okay, so now I'll come and ask you another question. How did the flood solve it? The flood didn't solve the jealousy problem. The flood destroyed humanity, but it didn't destroy jealousy. We still have jealousy. So I don't understand what's going on here. Humanity becomes corrupt because of jealousy. Hashem destroys the world with the flood, but the flood didn't do anything. A new generation of humanity came with jealousy. So we didn't do anything here. If you ever ask yourself what jealousy is, then I'll tell you what jealousy is. Jealousy is stupidity. That's it is. If you're jealous, you're stupid. There's a saying in Hebrew, it doesn't sound good in English. I'll say it in Hebrew for the ones of you who will appreciate it more, and then I'll translate it. It says in Hebrew, Adam chai mima shehu ochel, vemet mima sheochel oto. A person is alive, or his sustenance, a person is alive because of what he eats. You are what you eat. But in this term, it doesn't fit well. A person is alive because of what he eats. But a person dies from what eats him. When you're jealous, it eats you alive. So in Hebrew, the term sounds very, very good. Adam chai mima shehu ochel, vemet mima sheochel oto. That's it. That's jealousy. Stupidity. Baruch Hashem, I have a lot of bad character traits. This I don't have. I don't have jealousy. Hashem spared for me this nisayon. I can't understand the concept of jealousy. Especially when you're pretending to be God-fearing and observant. You believe that everything comes from God, but you're still jealous of somebody else. So not only that you're not really observant and you don't have any emunah in Hashem, then you're also stupid. Okay, let's continue. So we have a few problems, a few questions, and still no solutions. Now, again, it says that one of the reasons for the flood was mal'ah ha'aretz chamas. The world became corrupt. And again, I asked the same question. So how did the flood solve the problem? I didn't see any solving all the problems. The flood came, destroyed the world, and a generation right after, boom, you have the generation of dispersion. Didn't solve any problem. And not only that, look at it, 5,000 years passed. Any solution? No, same thing. Same jealousy, same immorality, same hate. So what's the concept of the flood? If it didn't come to fix this problem, what's the concept behind the flood and what's the concept of the ark? Explain to me. And how did the flood solve the problem? If you think it came to solve a problem. So we have a lot of questions to be answered. It says that the entire secret of the flood is explained with one sentence in the Torah, said in one sentence, and explained in the Talmud. What was the first thing or the first cause in the creation of the world? Really? It's the second verse of the entire Torah. Second verse. But the question our sages ask is, what was the first cause? It says, Bereshit bara Elokim tashamayim v'ta'aretz. That's the first verse in the Torah. In the beginning, Hashem created the heavens and the earth. Second verse, ve'ha'aretz hayta tohu vavohu. And then it continues, and the land was chaos, or destruction, however you want to translate it. And then the verse ends, ve'ruach Elokim merachefet al pnei hamayim. The Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the water. That's the second verse in the Torah. As our sages explain, that's the first cause of the Torah. So first Hashem created the heaven and the earth. Then the Spirit of God is hovering over the water. Now let's go to the next day. What happens on this next day? Hashem separates between the waters. Right? Between, how is the translation goes? Separation between water and water. Yeah? The water above and the water below. What is the Torah telling us? That in the beginning, everything was one big bubble of water. Right? That's what the Torah says. I'm not saying that. The Torah says that in the beginning we had one big bubble of water. It doesn't matter right now if it's half a bubble, full bubble, it doesn't matter. But we're talking here a bubble, let's call it now a bubble of water. And what happens on the second day? Hashem separates between the water from above and the water from below. That's the second thing that Hashem does. So what do we take from that? The entire world is one big bubble of water. What does it resemble? This big bubble of water? No. What does this big bubble of water resembles? A woman's womb. Where is the baby? In a bubble of water. The baby is immersed in water and surrounded completely by water. So imagine now, again, a bubble of water. Okay, womb may be not in the perfect circle. But the idea, the baby is immersed in the water and covered with water for 9 months. Miraculously, it doesn't need to breathe, it doesn't need to eat, it doesn't do anything. Interestingly, if you look at the reality, all the holes that are normally open in the womb are closed, and all the holes that are closed in the womb are open. And the second that the baby goes out, ears, nostrils, mouth, rectum, everything, all the holes that are normally open in the womb are closed, and vice versa. Is that in the phone or outside? So, if you want, the safe room is on the back. The entire building is one big safe room. Somebody asked me the other day if I have a mamad at home. I told him, did you ever see my house? The house is made out of cement. It's like 80 centimeters of cement, the entire house. The house is a safe home. But nevertheless, so back to what we're talking about. The baby is immersed in the womb, and miraculously, mouth is open, ears are open, nostrils are open, water doesn't go in. How? And the second that the baby goes out of the womb, all the holes open up right away. That's what we say in Asher Yatzar. אשר יצר את האדם בחוכמה, וברא בו נקבים, holes and holes, חלולים, you can, hollow. גלוי וידוע שאם ייפתח אחד מהם, או ייסתם אחד מהם, אי אפשר להתקיים שעה אחת. That's the blessing we say. One hole opens up for more than the time that it needs, that's it, you're dead. Or one of the holes closes, whether it's your nostrils, your how do you call the veshet, the esophagus, or the where you breathe from. That's it. So the baby is in the mother's womb in a bubble of water. So in the beginning, the world was a womb, was a bubble of water. And then on the second day, the master of the universe separates from the water from the top and the bottom. The Talmud says that the flood surrounded the entire world again with water. That's what the Talmud explains, that the world filled up again with water. Like as if the womb was deflated from all the water, now Hashem filled it all up again. Again, the whole bubble is full of water. What's the significance? Bring us back to point 1. To the beginning. Reset the system. Where can you find this familiar in your life? Your phone doesn't work. You call the phone company. What they tell you? Reboot the system. Your computer, your phone, whatever it is. almost any digital and technical, mechanical, reboot it. Restart it. That's the Mabul, the restart of the world. Hashem says, okay, there's a bug in the system, let me restart it. So what's so special about water in that way? When the water, if you're looking like at a womb type of situation, there's no separation. Everything is one unit. Here, we are all separated. When the entire existence is under the water, even though every animal is separated, or it will be more of a mammal than an animal. But look now there at the fish tank. The fish are individual entities, but they're all immersed in the water. It's one entity. Yechida achat, one unity. There's no separation. That's the significance of being everything underwater. So in the beginning, everything was covered by water. Everything was immersed in water. Because if you read the Torah very clearly, after Hashem separated the water, Vatira'eh ha'adama, then the land appeared. Which means it was there already. It just didn't appear. Imagine now you move the ocean, then you'll see what's going inside. So in the beginning, everything was covered with water. That signifies the nullification to Hashem. The reality or the awareness of one, of unity. Kadosh Baruch Hu, Echad U'Shmo Echad. This is called an awareness of emunah. Right now, I don't see God because there's too much separation of everything. So it's very hard to believe in God. But if I will be in an awareness that everything is one, I'm not going to have an issue of emunah, of belief. Angels don't have an issue with emunah. Angels are one unity with the entire creation. They're annullified to Hashem. It's a creature. Angels are creatures. They were also created in the 6 days of creation. But nevertheless, angels don't have issues with belief in God. Right? We have an issue with belief because Hashem created a system that I don't have an awareness that we are one unity. So being underwater, that's how it was in the beginning, that's a nullification to Hashem. It's called Metziut Achat, one reality. And this one reality is the awareness of Emunah. There's only Metziut, there's only reality is God. Now, the second when the embryo, the baby, goes out of the water, he starts developing the awareness. The baby doesn't have an awareness when he's in the womb. The second the baby goes out, he's a self-entity. Up until now, he was part of his mother. He didn't have to worry about anything, didn't think of anything. If you would go into the baby's mind, first of all, the baby doesn't even have an opinion or a mind at this point. He's batel, he's nullified to his mother. He's part of his mother. He doesn't need to worry about anything, he doesn't need to think of anything. I'm sure you know the analogy of the twins that are in the mother's room, and one of them says, "Do you believe in mom?" And the other twin says, "No, I don't believe." And he says, "But what are you talking about? Mom feeds us, mom carries us." Yeah, I'm sure you know the analogy. It's a long story. But that's the same thing. The baby in the mother's womb, it doesn't have any problems with emunah. The second that you go out of the womb, you start developing an awareness. What would be that awareness? Of whatever the society gives you. Take now any child from any type of background, put that child on a deserted island and give them a different awareness, that's how they're going to grow up. Don't need to do much experiment with that. The people that you see is a result of where they grew up, or what they were taught, and what they saw. Take the same child from the same family, put him on a deserted island, teach them something completely different. That's how they're going to grow up. Why do you think you have people across the border that are willing to cut your head off with no remorse and with no feelings? Because they're born into a reality that you are a blood-drinking enemy. That you took their land, that you raped their mother, and you took everything. Their entire awareness is, I need to kill you. All you need is to unleash them, and they'll come and kill you in the most horrible way. That's their awareness. Take the same child that was born to an Arab mother, put him now in a different place. He will grow to love you. The awareness, the consciousness of each individual, you can rewrite it in any way you want. So Hashem brings the entire world back to stage one. That's the concept of the flood. Erasing everything, resetting everything.
The Great Reset.
The Great Reset. Yeah, take that psychopath there, whatever his name is. The Great Reset. He's right. You know that everything that comes out of these evil people, that's God talking. Whatever they want to do, a new world order, you're right, there will be a new world order. The order of Hashem. Great Reset, you're right, we're going to reset all evil. All the terms that they're using, they're right. It's actually a joke how Hashem speaks through the evil. All their plans, they're all right about it. When they want to have no currency, you're right. When Mashiach is going to come, we're not going to have a currency. We're not going to have money. There's not going to be stock market and all this nonsense and banks. Everything that they're trying to redesign, that's Hashem telling us that's what's going to happen. They're all descendants of the generation of dispersion. They're all descendants of Nimrod. So really, it's funny to see what they're saying. But you're right, the Great Reset. Hashem is saying Mashiach is going to come. There's going to be a reset. Going back to stage one. That's the flood. How does Hashem decide to do it? By putting the entire world into a mikveh. And like I told you, a woman has her cycle, she has the status of impurity, goes into, immerses herself into the mikveh, boom, all the impurity disappears. She's back to stage one, permitted to her husband. So really the flood is not a punishment, it's tahara, it's to bring purity. Why 40 days? Because the mikveh has to be 40 se'ah. There's a certain measurement. You know, if the mikveh doesn't have a certain measurement of water, it's called 40 se'ah. Se'ah is the measurement, like you have liters or gallons or whatever. So the 40 days correspond to the 40 se'ah, the measurement that a mikveh needs to be. That's why it was 40 days. When we want to answer why water, the water didn't come to destroy. The water came to purify. Why 40 days? That's the measurement that is required for a mikveh to operate. You have 39.9 of the water of the mikveh, it won't do it. So 40 days corresponding to the measurement of 40 se'ah. So we answered two questions. Now we have the question of the ark. The ark, like I told you, can be also explained and translated as a word. And really, words are what allow us to be in a completely different form. You can use two different words to define the same thing. You can say on something that's bad, that's one way of defining it, or you can use not good. So, words allow you to change the essence of everything. You can tell a child you are a failure and you destroy the child, or you can tell him, this time you didn't make it, next time you'll put some effort, you'll be successful. So the words really change the reality. How are you today? Horrible. How are you feeling today? Not as good as yesterday. Whatever. I mean, how you talk, you change the reality, you change the form of everything. So when we're talking about an ark here, ignore the cruise ship that Noach built. We're talking here about words. Saying in other words, that the Teva signifies speech. Hashem created the world last week with speech, right? That's how Hashem creates the world. So really, you take the word, you form the reality according to the word that you use. I'm very uncomfortable, or it's not to my satisfaction, or whatever it is, you use your imagination. When it says, when a human being comes into the ark, it says to Noach, bo el hateva, come into the ark. When a person goes into the ark, we're talking about, into the words, it's a new person. A whole new person. He brings on himself purity. The power of words is designing your thoughts. And that's why I told you, take a baby from doesn't matter where, which culture, put him somewhere else and educate them different, he will be a completely different person. So what we take from that is words is what designs your thoughts. I can take now an entire race of people. I can take now, and by the way, whoever did that was Hitler, Yimach Shemo v'zichro. Hitler took 200,000 babies. The sources, the information says that he did it all in Antarctica, in the South Pole. That he had there, how did it call, New Berlin, a whole civilization under the ground that he built. It was crazy. The Holocaust was one of the little things that he did in his endeavors. Hitler somehow believed that Atlantis is real, and he took most of his resources and money to find Atlantis. And that's how they found all the spots in the South Pole and many other things. But nevertheless, and many of the Nazis went down to the South Pole to hide there. But nevertheless, that's one of the experiments. I think it's called New Berlin. I don't remember now. It's not so important. But that's what he did. Took a lot of babies and raised them in a whole different type of civilization. You meet that type of baby, they look at you like... Because if you take now a group of babies and you put them in a new surrounding, and you dress them different, and you teach them a new language. How do you know how to speak? Your parents taught you how to speak. So when you were born, they showed you, I don't know, a ball, they told you ball. Right? When I was born, they showed me a ball, they told me kadur. What did they tell you? How do you say ball in Russian? Patch? Match. So see, we're the same people. For me, a ball is kadur. For you, patch. For you, ball. And if I continue now, the Japanese chokama and the Hungarian purchuchu or whatever it is, same thing. Different. I can also invent a language. I can take now 1,000 kids, put them under the ground, dress them different, teach them a whole new language that I invented, teach them values, teach them a religion, teach them whatever I want. I create a whole human race. Thinks different, believes different, talks different, dresses different, uses everything different. I can testify that. I have 7 kids. When my first child was born, I told my wife, we are the architects of that child's life. Whatever values I'm going to give this child, that's what the child is going to believe and think. However I dress, they will dress. Whatever I eat, they eat. How I behave, they behave. Whatever values I put, if I put good values in them, doesn't matter how much they're going to go to the sides. They still have the same values that I taught them. So, what do we take from that? That the power of words designs your thoughts. I can come and tell you all day long. That's what they're doing to the Palestinians in Gaza. From the day one, they just open their eyes. Jews are evil. Jews are evil. We have to kill them. We have to kill them. They did this, they did that. That's it. The words design their thoughts. Now go and try to untangle that. You can't. So the conclusion here, the Mabul, the flood is not a punishment. You have to take that out of your vocabulary. The flood was a mikveh. Hashem says, okay, humanity went off the course. I need to bring them back into the mikveh. To erase everything, to reset everything. To have their awareness of God, to have a nullification to God. How Hashem is going to do it now, I don't know. But nevertheless, in order for Hashem to reset everything, nobody could have their own reality. So when they were out of the womb, so to say, they created their own reality. What was the result? The jealousy. But Hashem says, okay, I need to reset the situation. I'll put them back all into the mikveh. Change their status. From impure to pure. Now you will ask the question, okay, but it didn't do it.
It didn't last very long.
It didn't last. It didn't do its the job. It will only affect the ones that they wanted to be affected. The flood didn't affect then and won't affect now if you're not willing to do the change. If you're not aware of the change that you need to do. How do you define a Baal Tshuva? Right? I can easily say that everybody in this room and probably 90% of the viewers are Baal Tshuva. They were born one way and they changed their way. It doesn't matter if you were born a non-Jew and converted, or if you were born secular and you found somehow your path to God. That's about tshuva, chozer b'tshuva. That for a certain amount of your life, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you had a certain opinion, thought a certain way, behaved in a certain way, and then something clicked in your brain, and you got a different awareness. And what was the result from that? You change your way. You suddenly don't believe everything that what you've been told. You suddenly don't follow everything that you were taught. Suddenly you have some type of an enlightenment saying, I don't believe this anymore. That's the miracle of Hashem in our generation. Because for thousands of years, people were oppressed with what they were taught. That's it. And if chas v'shalom, you would raise a question that doesn't fall with the opinion, you would either get smacked or oppressed in one way or another. You're the black sheep, you're going off the course. But now Hashem is allowing people to start questioning things. I don't believe in this, I don't believe in that. But the reality is that a Baal Tshuva, a person who comes closer to Hashem, erases the previous reality and then starts developing a new awareness. What's this new awareness? That I have no reality. The Hashem is the reality. So really that is the purpose of the flood. Now why it didn't work then? Because the person needs to do the change. That's why it didn't sustain. You need to do the reset. You need to figure out, I'm going the wrong way. That's tshuva. I'm going the wrong path. I need to reset it. Now we don't have now a great mikveh that we can do. Of course, if a person converts, they go into a mikveh to reset their reality. It doesn't work for Baal Tshuvas, although we are recommended very highly to go to the mikveh all the time to reset the situation. But comes the Mabul, the story, and it tells you, whoa. You want to avoid all this chaos? Go into the ark. Build an ark. That's your speech, and then go into the ark. That is what's going to save you. Is the speech, the reality. The first thing that I did as a Baal Tshuva when I decided to change my way was my speech. Not yeshiva. Only after 3 years I went to yeshiva. The first thing, and why did it come to my mind? Because I understood that that's the foundation. The first thing that I worked on in the first year of my tshuva is to stop cursing, stop the foul language, stop lying, stop cheating, slandering, gossiping. That's the foundation. You change the reality of how you speak, suddenly your whole reality changes. There's a very interesting chidush from the Maggid from Koznich. And he says, if you look at the measurements of the ark, they tell you exactly what the ark means. The ark was 300 amah long. What's the letter corresponding to the numerical value of 300? Shin. The width of the ark was 50 amah. What's the letter that corresponds to the numerical value of 50? Nun. The height of the ark was 30 amah. What's the numerical value of the letter? Lamed. What's the name that you get? Lashon. Your speech. I will conclude by saying, you don't rule nothing in this world. There's only one thing in this world that a human being can control, and that he rules. What did you think? Even yourself. You can't control your thoughts, you can't control your behavior. There's only one thing you can control in this world. That's your mouth. Our sages say, Shomer pivu leshono, shomer mitzarot nafsho. If you guard your mouth and your tongue, you guard yourself from all the bad things that happen to you in this life. So when you're looking at the flood as a way of enlightenment, as a spiritual message, as something that you need to take to your own life, then if your life is perfect, go ahead, good, you're good to go. But most of us, our life is far away from perfect. We have a lot of issues that we need to deal with. External issues, my livelihood, kids to take care of, horrible relationships, and 1,000,001 other things in my life that I need to take care of and I need to deal with. The chaotic structure of my life, some of it is under control, some is not. But if we take the advice of our sages, shomer pivu leshono, you guard your mouth and your tongue, shomer mitzarot nafsho, you guard yourself from all the issues that you have, then you have to understand here that the flood is a form of purity that comes to teach me. You want to reach to a place of purity? You want to reach to a place that you reset your horrible behavior? At the end of the day, you need to look at yourself. That's my advice to myself and to any other person. You have issues in your life? Look at yourself. I have issue with my parnasa, with my livelihood, I only look at myself. I have marital issues, I look at myself. I don't blame the wife. I have problems with kids. Any problem that I have in my life, I don't point the finger that way, I point the finger this way. I have done something that I have created a certain reality. I am not happy about this reality, it needs to change. That's the level of a Baal Tshuva, where you are aware enough to take responsibility to your own behavior and say, this is not working out because of me, not because of the entire world. I am the problem. Now you start your tshuva process by introspecting and finding what is the problem, by reverse engineering. And if I want to better my life, that's the level of a Baal Tshuva. That you have by yourself the awareness to change the situation. And how do you change it? By completely changing the awareness. That's the form of a mikveh, resetting everything. How do we do it? Besides going to the mikveh, is your teva, is the ark. Reverse engineer to how you talk. Everything boils down to this. That's why I told you last class. It all boils down to one little hole. Shomer pivu shono, shomer mitzarot nafsho. All your problems is this. You change the reality by your speech. So when you want to control the chaos in your life, if you don't see chaos in your life, then you're either on a completely different level or completely ignorant. But when you want to control the chaos in your life, then you need to control your mouth.